Hello and welcome back to English Power Podcast. I'm really glad you're here with me today. Thank you for pressing play, for listening, and for supporting this channel. Every time you tune in, whether you're walking, driving, or just relaxing, you're not only improving your English, you're also learning something that can make your life a little better. I truly appreciate your time and your trust. I know you have many options out there, but you chose to be here with me, and that means a lot. Today, we're going to talk about something important, something that many people struggle with, often without even realizing it. The topic is why perfectionism is a silent growth killer. You may have heard the word perfectionism before. Maybe you already know it means trying to be perfect all the time. But in this episode, we're going to look deeper. We're going to understand why that desire to be perfect can actually stop you from growing, from learning, and from becoming the person you want to be. Here's the thing. Perfectionism is quiet. It hides in the background. It doesn't scream, but it slowly holds you back. That's why we call it silent. It tells you to wait until everything's perfect before you start, before you speak, before you take action. But when you wait for perfection, you miss opportunities. You spend more time thinking than doing. You feel stressed, anxious, afraid to make mistakes. And when that happens, growth slows down. Because real growth doesn't need perfection. It needs action. It needs small steps, even messy ones. It needs courage, not control. This topic is especially important if you're learning English. Many learners, maybe even you, wait to speak until everything sounds perfect, until they know every grammar rule, every word, the perfect sentence. But that waiting becomes a wall. Perfectionism keeps you silent when what you really need is practice, because without practice, there's no real progress. Mistakes are not your enemy, they're your teachers. They're how your brain learns, how your confidence grows. In this episode, we'll break down why perfectionism looks helpful at first, why it actually works against your success, and what simple steps you can take to stop it from holding you back. So stay with me, listen carefully, and if you want to practice, try repeating some of the sentences out loud. We're in this together, step by step. Let's begin. What is perfectionism? Perfectionism is when a person always wants everything to be completely perfect without any mistakes or problems. It sounds like something good because wanting to do things well is usually positive. But perfectionism is different. It is not just about trying to do a good job. It is about feeling that nothing you do is ever good enough and you must always make it better and better until it feels perfect. People who have perfectionist thinking often believe that if something is not 100% correct, it is not worth doing at all. This kind of thinking can make life more stressful and can stop a person from growing and moving forward. In simple words, perfectionism means you set very high standards for yourself and you feel unhappy or upset when you cannot reach those standards. For example, imagine you are writing an email in English. A perfectionist might spend a very long time checking every single word, every comma, every sentence again and again, because they are afraid to send the email with even a small mistake. Instead of sending it quickly and moving on, they spend too much time trying to make it absolutely perfect. This can cause delays, waste time, and create unnecessary stress. Perfectionism can show up in many parts of daily life. Some people clean their house again and again because they see tiny things that are not exactly right. Some people write a school assignment but never submit it because they keep thinking it is not ready yet. Others avoid starting a new project because they are afraid they will not do it perfectly from the very first try. In all of these examples, perfectionism makes the person wait, fix, and redo instead of just acting and improving naturally over time. When we talk about learning English, perfectionism is something many students struggle with, even if they don't realize it. Maybe you have felt nervous about speaking because you want to say every sentence perfectly. You think, what if I make a grammar mistake? What if I use the wrong word? What if people laugh at me? These thoughts make you silent. You choose not to speak because you want to be perfect. But in reality, by staying silent, you lose the chance to practice and to get better. This is how perfectionism quietly kills your growth. Another example is when someone wants to write in English but spends hours just trying to choose the right words. Instead of writing freely and practicing, they keep stopping, checking, and changing. By the time they finish, they feel tired and frustrated. They may even start to believe they are bad at English, even though the real problem is not their ability, it is their perfectionism holding them back. Perfectionism also makes people compare themselves to others all the time. You might look at another English speaker who talks fluently and think, I need to speak just like them or I am not good. This kind of thinking can make you lose motivation. Instead of focusing on your own progress, you focus on someone else's level and feel that your best is not enough. It is important to understand that wanting to do well and being careful are not bad. In fact, they are good qualities. But when you push yourself too hard and expect yourself to be perfect in everything, it becomes harmful. Perfectionism doesn't allow you to make mistakes, but mistakes are necessary for learning. They are not signs of failure, they are steps that help you improve. So, perfectionism is more than just trying hard. It is an attitude that says, I must be perfect or I am not good at all. This attitude can affect your studies, your work, and even your happiness. Understanding this difference is the first step to overcoming it. Why do people become perfectionists? Many people do not wake up one day and decide, I want to be a perfectionist. Perfectionism often grows slowly and it has many reasons behind it. One of the biggest reasons is the fear of making mistakes. From a young age, many of us are taught that mistakes are bad. In school, when we write a wrong answer, we see a red mark. At home, when we do something wrong, we might hear criticism. Over time, we start to believe that mistakes mean failure, and failure means we are not good enough. This belief can make us try very hard to avoid mistakes, even small ones. Instead of seeing mistakes as part of the learning process, perfectionists see them as something to fear and hide from. Another strong reason is the fear of judgment from others. Many people worry about what others will think if they are not perfect. They imagine others will laugh at them, criticize them, or think less of them. This fear can be very powerful, especially when you are learning something new like English. You might avoid speaking because you think people will notice your accent or grammar errors. You might avoid writing because you are afraid someone will point out your spelling mistakes. Instead of feeling free to try, you feel pressure to be perfect so that no one can judge you. A third reason is the desire to impress others or win approval. Some people grow up in families or schools where they receive praise only when they do something very well. They learn that love, attention, or respect comes from being the best. As adults, they continue to push themselves to meet very high standards, hoping to get that same approval from bosses, teachers, friends, or even strangers. They feel they must always show their best side and hide anything that looks like a weakness. In today's world, social media also plays a big role. Every day we see pictures and videos of people who look perfect, perfect lives, perfect jobs, perfect bodies, and perfect success stories. Even though we know deep inside that these posts are not always real, we still compare ourselves. We start to feel that we must also be perfect to be liked, followed, or respected. This constant comparison can make perfectionist thinking stronger because we don't want to look less than others. Schools and workplaces can add more pressure. Some schools reward only the highest grades, and students begin to believe that anything less than an A is a failure. Some workplaces demand fast and flawless work, which makes people afraid to make even the smallest mistake. Over time, this pressure creates a habit: always check, always fix, and never feel satisfied with your work unless it is perfect. Family expectations can also be a cause. Some parents unintentionally teach perfectionism by expecting their children to always win, always be first, or always do everything right. Even if the parents mean well, the child may grow up feeling that love and acceptance depend on perfect performance. As adults, they carry this pressure inside and continue to try to meet invisible expectations. Perfectionism can also come from personality traits. Some people are naturally very careful, responsible, and organized. These traits are good, but when they mix with fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough, they can turn into perfectionism. So perfectionism is usually not about wanting to be the best for yourself, it is often about fear and pressure. Fear of mistakes, fear of what others think, and pressure from society, school, family, or social media. Understanding these causes is very important because when you know where perfectionism comes from, you can start to change how you think and how you act. How perfectionism looks in real life. Perfectionism is not just an idea in your head. It shows up in your daily life, often in small but powerful ways. Many people do not even realize they are acting like perfectionists because the behaviors feel normal to them. But if we look closely, we can see how perfectionism appears in real situations and how it quietly affects what we do. Imagine a student who is learning English. She knows some words and grammar, and she understands many things when she listens, but when it is time to speak, she stays quiet. She wants to say every sentence perfectly. She thinks, if I make a grammar mistake, people will think I am not smart. She feels nervous, and instead of trying, she decides to say nothing at all. In her mind, silence feels safer than speaking with mistakes. On the outside, it may look like she is shy, but in reality, perfectionism is stopping her from practicing and improving. Another common example is a person who delays work because they want it to be perfect. Let's say someone has to write a short report for school or for their job. They start writing but keep erasing sentences. They read every line many times trying to make each one better. They check the same paragraph again and again. Hours pass, but the report is still not finished because they never feel it is good enough to submit. The deadline comes closer, and instead of feeling proud, they feel stressed and tired. In the end, they might rush to finish or even miss the deadline completely. This is how perfectionism turns good intentions into wasted time and extra pressure. Perfectionism can also show up in everyday tasks. For example, imagine someone cleaning their kitchen. Most people clean until it looks fine and then they stop. A perfectionist, however, might keep cleaning the same place again and again because they see tiny spots no one else would even notice. They spend extra hours trying to make it perfect, and by the end, they feel exhausted. The kitchen is clean, but the person feels no joy, only tiredness, and sometimes even anger at themselves for not doing it better. Another scenario is when someone wants to start something new, like a personal project or learning a new skill, but they keep waiting for the right moment. They say, I will start when I have more time, or I will begin when I have the perfect plan. Deep inside, they are afraid to start because they want everything to be perfect from day one. But the perfect moment never comes, and months or even years pass without any action. Perfectionism also affects how people make decisions. A perfectionist might spend a very long time choosing something simple like what to eat at a restaurant or what clothes to wear. They think too much because they don't want to make the wrong choice. They want the choice to be the best, not just good. This makes life feel heavier and slower than it needs to be. In learning English, perfectionism can be very harmful. A learner might refuse to join a speaking group because they are afraid of sounding bad. They might avoid writing messages online because they worry about grammar. They may even stop listening to English podcasts because they do not understand every single word. Instead of enjoying the process and making progress step by step, they feel stuck and frustrated. These examples show that perfectionism is not just about wanting quality. It is about fear and pressure. It can take simple activities and turn them into stressful experiences. It makes you wait, it makes you avoid, and it makes you repeat things again and again until you feel tired but not satisfied. Recognizing these behaviors is the first step to change. If you see yourself in any of these examples, you are not alone. Many people experience the same situations every day. The good news is that once you understand how perfectionism looks in your real life, you can start to take small steps to break free from it. Why perfectionism is a silent growth killer. Perfectionism may look harmless because it often hides behind good intentions. You may think you are just trying to do your best, but in reality, perfectionism can quietly stop you from learning, improving, and moving forward in life. That is why it is called a silent growth killer. It does not shout loudly, but it slowly takes away your chances to grow step by step without you noticing until much later. One of the first ways perfectionism kills growth is through delay, also called procrastination. When you want everything to be perfect, you wait too long to start tasks. You tell yourself, I need more time, or I will begin when I am completely ready. But that perfect time never comes. For example, an English learner might think, I will start speaking practice after I learn all the grammar rules. Because grammar rules are endless, the person never starts speaking. Days, weeks, and months pass, but their speaking skills stay the same. Instead of learning by doing, they keep waiting. which means no real progress happens. Another way perfectionism hurts you is by creating stress and anxiety. When you believe that you must be perfect, you put heavy pressure on yourself. Every small task feels like a big test. You spend hours checking, fixing, and worrying about mistakes. This constant pressure makes your mind and body feel tired. You may have trouble relaxing or enjoying your work because you are always thinking it is not good enough yet. Over time, this stress can reduce your energy and motivation. Instead of feeling excited to learn or try new things, you feel nervous and afraid. Perfectionism also leads to missed opportunities. Opportunities often come quickly and they do not wait for you to be perfect. For example, imagine someone invites you to join a small group to practice English speaking. A perfectionist might say no because they feel unprepared or afraid to make mistakes. But that speaking group could have been a great chance to improve. In the same way, you might avoid applying for a job, sharing your ideas, or starting a new project because you think you are not ready yet. These chances may not come again, and by waiting for perfection, you miss valuable moments that could help you grow. Another hidden effect of perfectionism is that it lowers your self-confidence. At first, you might think that aiming for perfect results will make you feel stronger and prouder. But perfectionism often does the opposite. Because you set very high goals that are almost impossible to reach, you often feel like you are failing. Even when you do something well, you focus only on the small mistakes or the parts that are not perfect. Over time, you start to believe, I am not good enough. This negative belief can hurt your confidence in learning, working, and even social situations. Instead of feeling encouraged by your progress, you feel disappointed, which makes it harder to take action next time. Perfectionism is also dangerous because it slows down the natural process of learning. Learning anything, especially a language, requires making mistakes, trying again, and improving step by step. But perfectionism blocks this process. It makes you afraid to try, so you practice less, and when you practice less, your skills grow more slowly. This creates a cycle. You wait for perfection, you avoid practice, your progress is slow. And because your progress is slow, you feel even more pressure to be perfect. This cycle can continue for years if you do not notice it. The most silent part of perfectionism is that it feels like it is helping you when it is actually hurting you. You might say, I am just careful or I want to do my best. But real growth does not come from being perfect. It comes from taking action, making mistakes, and learning from them. Perfectionism takes away those chances quietly. It does not scream stop growing, it simply keeps you waiting, worrying, and doubting yourself until you realize that time has passed and you have not moved forward as much as you could have. Understanding these effects is important because once you see how perfectionism delays your actions, increases your stress, takes away opportunities, and weakens your confidence, you can start to make different choices. You can choose progress instead of perfection. You can decide that doing something, even imperfectly, is better than doing nothing at all. The difference between healthy high standards and harmful perfectionism. It is very important to understand that not all high standards are bad. Wanting to do well is a good thing. Setting goals, working hard, and trying to improve are all healthy behaviors that help you grow. But perfectionism is not the same as having healthy high standards. The difference may look small at first, but it makes a big change in how you feel, how you work, and how you learn. When you have healthy high standards, you aim to do your best, but you also accept that mistakes can happen. You understand that growth takes time. You say to yourself, I want to do this well, but it is okay if it is not perfect. I will learn from any errors I make. This thinking makes you feel motivated, not scared. You take action even when you are not fully ready, because you know that practice is part of improvement. Perfectionism, on the other hand, does not allow mistakes. A perfectionist thinks, if I cannot do it perfectly, I should not do it at all. This creates fear and pressure instead of motivation. Instead of helping you start and grow, perfectionism stops you from even trying. It makes you believe that only perfect results are valuable, so any small error feels like a big failure. For example, let's look at two people who are both learning English. A person with healthy high standards says, I will try to speak in class today. I may make some grammar mistakes, but that is okay. Each time I speak, I will get better. This person practices, learns from their errors, and improves over time. Mistakes are not signs that you are failing, they are signs that you are learning. When you make a mistake, try to see it as helpful information. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of saying, I am not good enough. The next helpful step is to start small. Perfectionists often feel overwhelmed because they think they need to do everything perfectly all at once. Instead, break your tasks into small, simple actions. If you want to improve your English speaking, you do not need to give a long speech today. You can start by saying one or two sentences to yourself in the mirror. Tomorrow you can try a short conversation with a friend. Each small step builds your confidence, and over time, those small steps turn into big progress. It is also very important to focus on progress, not perfection. Ask yourself, am I better than I was yesterday? Instead of, am I perfect yet? Progress is something you can measure, and it gives you positive energy. For example, maybe yesterday you could not say a full sentence in English, but today you said 3 sentences. That is progress, and it matters more than being perfect. If you keep focusing on small improvements, you will feel encouraged to keep going. Another key step is to practice self-kindness. Perfectionists are often very hard on themselves. They speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to a friend. For example, a perfectionist might think, I am stupid for making this mistake. But if a friend made the same mistake, they would probably say, it is okay, you are learning. Start talking to yourself like you would talk to someone you care about. Be gentle, patient, and kind. When you make an error, tell yourself, that is okay, I am learning. Everyone makes mistakes. This kind of self-talk helps reduce fear and builds confidence. Finally, learn to celebrate small wins. Perfectionists often ignore their successes because they are too busy noticing what is not perfect. But celebrating progress is very important for motivation. If you spoke English for 5 minutes today, that is a win. If you wrote a short email without checking it 20 times, that is a win. Even if it is not perfect, it is still better than doing nothing. Each small success is a sign that you are moving forward. And the more you celebrate these moments, the more energy and courage you will have to keep improving. Another helpful thing is to remind yourself that no one is perfect. Even experts make mistakes. Even native speakers of English forget words, use the wrong grammar, or change their sentences in the middle. The difference is that they do not stop speaking because of those small errors. They keep going, and that is what makes them fluent. You can do the same. Overcoming perfectionism is really about changing how you think. It is about choosing action over fear, learning over waiting, and kindness over criticism. If you take small steps every day, accepting mistakes, starting small, focusing on progress, being kind to yourself, and celebrating each step, you will slowly feel lighter and freer. You will see that you do not need to be perfect to grow. You just need to keep moving forward. Let me tell you a simple story about a language learner named Zara. Zara was a student who wanted to learn English very well. She worked hard, she read many grammar books, and she watched English videos every day. But even after many months, her speaking skills did not improve much. Why? Because Zara was a perfectionist. She believed that she should only speak when her sentences were perfect. Every time her teacher asked a question, Zara stayed quiet. In her mind, she thought, what if I say something wrong? What if I forget a word? People will think I am not smart. Because of these thoughts, Zara avoided speaking practice. She spent most of her time studying alone, writing notes, and memorizing rules. She believed that one day, after enough study, she would finally feel ready to speak perfectly. But that day never came. She continued to learn more and more, but she still felt nervous and afraid to use her knowledge in real conversations. One day, her teacher gave her advice that changed her thinking. The teacher said, Zara, your problem is not your English. Your problem is your perfectionism. You want to be perfect, but perfect does not exist. You must speak, make mistakes, and learn from them. That is how you will grow faster. At first, Zara was scared, but she decided to try. In the next class, she raised her hand and answered a question. Even though she was not sure her sentence was correct, she made some mistakes. But something surprising happened. Nobody laughed at her. In fact, her teacher smiled and said, "Good job, Zara, you are improving." From that day, Zara made a new rule for herself. She would focus on progress, not perfection. She started speaking in every class, even if her grammar was not perfect. She began writing short messages to her friends in English without checking the dictionary every time. She practiced small steps daily instead of waiting for the perfect moment. After a few months, Zara's English speaking skills became much better. She felt more confident, she enjoyed learning, and she was not afraid to try new things. She realized that her mistakes helped her learn faster than all the hours she had spent silently studying. Zara's story shows that when you let go of perfectionism, you open the door to real growth. By allowing yourself to be imperfect, you give yourself the chance to practice, improve, and succeed much faster than if you wait to be perfect before starting. Before we finish, let's take a moment to remember the most important ideas from today's episode. These points are simple but powerful, and if you keep them in your mind, they can help you avoid perfectionism and grow faster in your learning and in your life. First, we learn that perfectionism means always trying to be completely perfect and feeling afraid of mistakes. At first, it may look like a good thing because it makes you work hard, but in reality, it can stop you from learning, from taking action, and from improving. Second, we talked about how perfectionism is often caused by fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged by others, and fear of not being good enough. Many people feel this pressure because of school, family expectations, or social media where everything looks perfect. Understanding that these fears are common can help you feel less alone and remind you that making mistakes is normal for everyone. Third, we saw what perfectionism looks like in daily life. It shows up when you delay tasks because you want them to be perfect. It shows up when you stay silent instead of speaking English because you want to say everything correctly. It also shows up when you spend too much time checking and fixing your work, or when you avoid starting something new because you feel you are not ready yet. Fourth, we discussed why perfectionism is a silent growth killer. It slowly holds you back by making you procrastinate, feel stressed, miss opportunities, and lose confidence in yourself. You may think you are being careful, but actually you are stopping your own progress. Fifth, we learned that there is a difference between healthy high standards and harmful perfectionism. Healthy standards help you grow because they push you to do your best but still allow mistakes. Perfectionism, however, does not allow any mistakes and makes you afraid to even try. Next, we talked about how to overcome perfectionism with simple tips. Accept mistakes as part of learning. Start small. Focus on progress instead of perfection. Be kind to yourself and celebrate small wins. These small changes can make a big difference in your journey. Finally, we heard Zara's story, which showed us that when you let go of the need to be perfect, you grow faster and feel happier. By practicing even when you are not perfect, you improve step by step, and soon you become better than you ever imagined. If you remember only one thing from this episode, let it be this: progress is more powerful than perfection. Each small step, each small effort, and each small mistake is part of your growth. Perfection is not the goal. Learning, improving, and enjoying the journey are what really matter. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to leave you with a small reflection. Take a moment right now and think about your own life. Is there one area where you are a perfectionist? Maybe it is in your English learning. Maybe you wait to speak because you want every sentence to be correct. Maybe it is at work or school where you spend too much time trying to make everything perfect. Or maybe it is in your personal life where you put pressure on yourself to always do everything right. Think about that area and ask yourself, what is one small thing I can do differently today? It doesn't have to be big. It can be something simple like speaking one short sentence in English, even if it has mistakes, or finishing a task without checking it 100 times. It could be giving yourself permission to try, even if it is not perfect. One small action can be the start of a big change. Remember, growth does not come from waiting until you are perfect. It comes from taking small steps, making mistakes, and learning as you go. Each time you choose action instead of perfection, you get stronger, more confident, and more skilled. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today here on English Power Podcast. I really appreciate your support, and I hope this episode gave you a clearer understanding of how perfectionism can quietly hold you back and what you can do to start moving forward with more confidence. If this helped you, I'd love to have you back for the next episode. We'll keep learning together, not perfectly, but step by step, which honestly is the most powerful way to grow. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep practicing, And remember, progress always begins with the courage to try.